And now, for the last but not least, I would like to invite Karen Eldor, VP of Product Management at CyberArk.
Hello, everybody. Do you hear me? Yeah. Thank you, Michal. I'm very honored to present here with this honored audience and presenters. And today I'm going to focus on the future of cybersecurity and how this is tied to the future of businesses. So first, it is indeed tied. That's something important to understand. And the future of cybersecurity, sorry. I was experiencing the same issues. Oh, okay. First, the important thing to understand is that security should enable the future of business and not the other way around. We should support and follow the directions that businesses are following. Now, what is happening in the last few years? We see that businesses are, in order to gain competitive edge, are relying more and more on software, on being able to deliver new applications, new services at higher velocity in order to stay competitive. And for that, they are going through digital transformation initiatives that help them deliver those applications and services in a much higher velocity. We see a lot of, whether it's from financial, all industries, retailers, manufacturing, they're all adopting new DevOps methodologies that will help them deliver faster. In fact, we see that organizations that are adopting these new methodologies of new DevOps are adopting cloud-native applications, new technologies. We see that they have 60% higher chances of increasing their revenues and growth more than 25% year over year. And with all those changes, security organizations basically need to adopt and see how do they provide, and we said they need to support the business, how do we adopt and support the business in going through this transformation. Sorry. No. Sorry, experiencing the same. Excuse me. No. Okay, hope this is the last time. Okay, so as part of this digital transformation, organizations need to adopt new technologies and with the movement to more SaaS, containerized environment, microservices, working with more SaaS, software as a services, and hybrid environments, this dramatically changes the way businesses can deliver new software and in a higher pace. So in the past, if it took around 6, 12, 18 months even to deliver releases of new services for businesses, now they can actually do that on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, even multiple times a day. And how does that change what security needs to do? So security, as part of this transformation, basically needs to adapt to these new changes, because it's not only the new pace of software delivery that is increasing every day. Now it's all about automation, and the entire environment is changing. Because if not, in the past I had a known number of servers that I have in my IT environment, and I have a group of IT people, administrators, that are managing that. Now it has changed to a more elastic and dynamic environment that is controlled not only by human users, my IT department, it is controlled by what I call the new IT administrators, which are machine and code, and tools that support automation of the environment. These are things that cannot be handled, the space and scale and velocity cannot be handled by humans anymore. We must adopt automation to support that, and security, we'll see, needs to adopt and gain new expertise in order to support this. But what we see, CyberArk has over the last 15 years, and I'm glad to be part of this group. We're always focused on privileged access. So Yossi from CyberReason just touched an example of that, of the risk of leaving exposed credentials. And really, CyberArk has been dealing with that, with managing and watching and alerting you from risk related to privileged access. Unfortunately, what we've seen with a lot of our customers, that these new teams that deal with innovation and the teams that want to run fast to provide the new services and applications for the business, to support the business, unfortunately, there is no real clarity of how they operate security-wise. And a lot of time, they work under a risk exception policy, meaning, in other words, we haven't really defined what are the security controls we need to put in place in those new DevOps and cloud environments. We just want you to run fast and deliver because this is what brings us money as a company. Indeed, when we talk to a lot of security professionals, we hear that over 50% of them say that the business innovation is not really related to the IT organization. When we check, and we've been working with thousands of customers and helping them implement privileged access security programs, when we ask them about their DevOps environment, actually most of them, 75%, say they don't really have a program for their DevOps environment. With cloud, the situation is not that better. So for the security for the cloud program, or privileged access security for the cloud is also not really clear in 50% of the organization. So what do we do? As organizations are undergoing this digital transformation initiatives, security organizations basically need to undergo their own digital transformation process. And what does that mean? First, we need to be able to communicate and engage new personas in the organization. So all these groups that are developing the new software, the new services that will bring more money to the organization, they talk in a language of engineering and DevOps and development. Security need to be able to adapt and learn those terms and be able to communicate and understand their language in order to understand the risks and be able to mitigate those risks for the long term, understand the cloud environment, understand the DevOps environment. There is a reason why we see more and more titles of security engineering people. Okay? Because we need security people to learn more, to become real engineers of those new environments and technologies. We also must be able to automate the security processes and to embrace them within those DevOps pipeline and cloud processes that, as I mentioned, they're all automated these days. Security can't stop them. It can't be a checkpoint on the way that, hey, I need to check you now, I stop you, I slow you down, and now you can continue from here. Security these days need to provide a road to get from A to B in a more secure way. But we can't be perceived as slowing down. Otherwise, security teams that will not do that change in a mindset initially, but then also a change in action of new tools and new technologies, they will just stay irrelevant and left behind. Developers, engineering will always find their workaround and ways to pass that, and no one will slow them down. So taking no action is also a type of inaction. We must, in order to prevent the next breach, we must take an action and do this change in our security departments. So if you're similar to our, and I'm talking to the enterprises in the audience, if you're similar to most of our customers, probably your environment a few years back looked like that. Servers, applications, resources running in your IT environment, probably mostly on-prem, IT administrators that are accessing these environments, the business end users accessing it from a certain amount of workstations. But now the reality is way more complex. Current IT environment of most of the enterprises looks something like that. And we can see here much more infrastructure. It's no longer running only on premises. It runs a little bit out of your control in the cloud. It's not within, people talk to you about the perimeter. Yeah, there's really no perimeter anymore. It's all based on software as a service. It's now in the cloud. If you are going through this DevOps transformation, I'm sure you all have those new technologies implemented or starting to be implemented with containers, microservices, serverless, your code running somewhere there in the cloud. Many new privileged actors in those environments, the SaaS admins, the DevOps people, they need to be able to have access to all of those resources. The new actor, which we mentioned before, code, machines, new tools that automate all of that, that allow this high velocity of software releases. New actors that you need to deal with, and of course a lot more automation via these new actors, and many more endpoints than you used to have in the past. So obviously, with all these changes, there is also a much higher privileged security risk, because now in all of those places, there is privileged access. Privileged access has been something that we've seen in all breaches, all the large breaches that you've heard in the newspapers, that large enterprises like Sony, like Target, like Anthem, in all those breaches, privileged access was a dominant part of the breach, because without that privileged access, attackers could not go and move through the IT network. So now the privileged access surface has really expanded, okay? And you need to be able, and organizations need to be able to understand what are the risks with all those privileged access points and be able to tackle them. So in CyberArk, I can say that we've been working with a lot of large organizations, and unfortunately, if you see here the list of the popular breaches that happened in the last few years, more than 40% of them approached us after the breach to help them really secure their environment. And a lot of the things that we're doing, the expertise that we gained, is based on this experience, helping organizations that were really breached. And one of these companies here in this list, they still have a very innovative culture, okay? And they were really trying to implement new technologies in order to allow them to move fast and provide new services in a much higher pace. Unfortunately, they didn't pay enough attention to the security controls that they need to put in place once they do that move. And I'm happy to say that we were able to work with them very closely about cyber security program focused on privileged access security that will allow them to both put the controls in place in all their environments, on-premise, in the cloud, in the DevOps, within this automation, but also still not give up this high velocity that they were working so hard to achieve. And this is really a win-win for us. So really based on this experience of working with many large enterprise customers, I can cover here a few tips or best practices of what is this transformation that security teams and all of us as security people need to think about and implement once we're supporting our organizations in moving via this digital transformation journey. So first, we really need to assess, what are the risks? What are the transitions we have made as an organization by moving to SaaS, by implementing DevOps and automation, by moving to microservices, okay? Maybe a lot of the concepts we implemented back in our on-premise environment are still relevant, but they are not necessarily implemented the same way in the new environment. It is super critical that we will focus on providing frictionless security solutions. As I mentioned, we can't stop. We want to enable this high velocity and running fast and enabling the business. But we must be able to embrace this new flow and automation and provide solutions that can live in those processes and not outside of them. Okay? We need to embrace new technologies. And as I mentioned, also, I would say, fit our security teams and our expertise, okay? Knowing the language, understanding how to talk to cloud architects, DevOps engineers, embrace their automation, embrace their methodologies. So with that, I want to finish just by saying that privileged access security is really an exciting market, an exciting space. I'm glad to be part of a team that really built this space in CyberArk. And it is continuing to evolve. We always need to remember that we need to be ahead of the attackers. Okay, our cyber labs are thinking this way, are always under the notion of think like an attacker, find the next attack vector that will be used eventually by attackers, and provide solutions to the market ahead of time. We definitely see as a market leader, we recognize the responsibility that we have in providing that solution, and excited to support large enterprises in this digital transformation and enable them to run fast and gain that value. So thank you very much for attending this. It was an honor to speak here. Thank you.